Let's see. Oh, I got a slide. So, very nice to see you all. I'm amazed about the previous presentation. I don't know what to do in the future because apparently we've done a perfect product apart from the resource manager. We'll look into that later. Anyway, some of you might have noticed that it was kind of tricky to get hotel rooms. And apparently it's due to Beyoncé having some concerts tomorrow or something like that. Very popular. I claim all those guys that go there are totally misguided. Depeche Mode is coming to this town 23rd of May, 2 weeks from now, so everybody should come there. And the intro song here was really one of my Depeche Mode favorites, and I started to listen to them very early on, and apparently approximately the same time when I started to look into computer science and computer networking. And one of the nice things with Cisco is really about we are allowed to do community services. And I do community service to coach classes in high school to help them find their way to a better future. And one of the things I'm talking about in that age, I was looking at two things, or maybe one thing. It was to being a rock star, and I typically have a picture of Dave Gahan, the singer in Depeche Mode. And now I'm here. I don't know what went wrong, but anyway, let's talk about the NSO update. Today, when we talk about updates, you need to be modern. Everybody's talking about AI. Don't know what to say, so I asked an AI robot to do a poem about NSO. You see the result. One of the results, quite many. And I also realize right now I won't get any too much guidance of an AI word, what to do next in NSO. So instead, we have used quite a different multiple ways of getting an understanding what you think about NSO and what you would like us to do. So let's start there. So we have a guy called Rickard Sandblad in our NSO team, our user experience expert, who did quite a lot of deep dive interviews during last year. And some of the feedback was things like documentation. It's massive, or it's too little, or it's outdated, well, all sort of things. Learning NSO, connected to the documentation. Connecting the dots, young models, Java, Python, XML template. You all know that, but for a newbie, that might not be the easiest grade. Another interesting thing that we saw was the discussion about upgrades, the operational aspects of upgrades. Some users think that's an ease, no problem at all. Others, users, customers, think this is a pain. It takes 6 months, 12 months at the best. And it's a very challenging journey. Another thing, NSO is a black box. What is going on within NSO? I have no idea as a user. Can you help me with that? Another thing that we try to understand, how do you develop on NSO? What kind of development environments? There was various ways using various IDEs. Of course, the core guys use Emacs or VI. I left that behind. Some of you using VS Code, PyCharm, Eclipse. And you use Docker, containers, environments. Another interesting thing, we talk a lot about development, Python and Java, but it seems to be cumbersome, so many stick to the templates. And then on we go, a lot of variants. You can do anything with NSO. Maybe you can build a moon rocket, but please tell me what's the right way for me. And also what we see now when customers are growing their deployments, listen to Ratsky Telecom, but we have all kind of customers around the world. Many of you are here. You also grow with a network, and now you need to optimize the services for performance and the scale of your network. So that was a few of the outcomes of a deep dive interview. This was really interviews. Some of you might have been hit by those interviews, but it was like in 1 hour sessions. And then, of course, we have these kind of community gatherings in Dev Days. So So we did a priority and asked for new feature session last year. Maybe some of you were here. And here we see the top 5 from the Stockholm session in 1 year ago. A lot about the documentation, template folders, I don't really remember what it was. We have also improved logging for error handling. Once again, black box, what's really going on. Official unit testing library coming a little bit more and more. Some people would like to have help or a predefined way of actually testing the entire setup. We have our dev days also in New York. This was December last year. And now we're starting to see more requests for Kubernetes support, NSO in containers. We know that many of you are already doing it, but it's confirmed it's important. More about documentation, phase service rollouts. I think we have a session about that later on, actually, so I won't cover that today. It's how to actually control your service deployment as well as your net upgrades. Hitless upgrade, 0 downtime when you do redeploy. And once again, better documentation. Okay, so what does this mean? Performance. For 6x, 6.0 we released a half year ago, now we released 6.1. All our messaging, what we talked about was really the throughput. Probably heard about the message about 3 times, 6 times. 3 times increased performance with your existing code base. If you optimize your code, you get 6 to 9 times more improvement of throughput. Which is it's all there now. It's 6.1 is out, it's our long-lived release, it's stable. I assume, I hope, really hope, that you're considering to upgrade to that if you haven't looked into it. If you don't, find me later and I'll explain why. I really would need to understand that. But there's other aspects of performance as well. Once again, from operational aspects, what's actually happening over time, we improve several different parts of NSO. So one of the things is we've done with CDB compaction improvements that also help to upgrade with CDB. So the service window you need to do an upgrade is much smaller in 6.1 compared to in the 5x series. Talked about throughput, but also individual sync froms. There's various ways that we have improved in individual sync froms in NSO. So in previous session we talked about how sync from might be important. In 6x, you do them in parallel, but also improve the individual ones. And finally, but not least, the thing that you might not think about, there are actually difference in the different NED versions, because the NED team do also an excellent work over time to optimize the different operations that the individual NEDs. So for an example, in the XR NED, we've seen a 15 times improvement of sync from in an actually earlier release in 5.7 branch of NSO. So all in all, it's a lot of things going on to be able to cater for larger networks and including to improve the performance from different aspects. And the latest and greatest is, of course, now in 6.1, released pretty recently. Okay, containerized NSO, just a few words. We don't have a session about that, but we see many of you are using that. You might have used Christian Larsson's repo, and do it yourself. Now in 6.1, we actually ship NSO packaging container. We continue to do that kind of efforts. Of course, the documentation comes along. And that together with our next HA framework, which is a raft algorithm-based. Many of you might use our existing NSO HA framework with TLF HEC. It will still be there using toe nodes. We know many are using it, and it's important to be able to do efficient upgrades and not do too many changes. But in 6.1, we have HA Raft. Jakob and Erdem have a session about that. We have which is an HA framework using a Raft algorithm that then you help to get automatic recovery, optimized net split recovery, and quite a few other things that's more automatic, and it's better fitted for the containerized environment. You still have the option to do it standalone, but this is in line with our effort to make NSO easier to use and consume in a containerized environment. Documentation. There was a lot of stuff, of feedback in documentation. And when we got this feedback and we did a deep dive about the feedback, we also realized that you might not have seen the latest documentation, because we have a very active documentation team that do continuously updates to our documentation. But that is always coming in our latest release. So I really urge you to go to our DevNet page to see the latest documentation if it's something that you don't really understand, or if you would like to get an update, because you actually have a development guide that's updated, actually applicable for older releases. And then this one is just recently released on DevNet. Might not be that complex to develop. It's our changelog explorer. For those of you doing upgrades of NSO platform, you now have a tool that you can search from release X to release Y. And then you get the list of all backwards incompatibilities or all new features, and you can export it to a CSV file. This is also now available for all our NEDs. So it's a tool to make your life easier. Hopefully you like it. We did a first release a few months ago, and then we did the update to get more fine-grained. Okay, developer experience. Now I'm trying to claim a little bit of AI again. So this is an AI bot's view of NSO developer experience. But what we really do for developer experience is trying to tie the dots together, Java, Python, XML, and of course Young in our NSO Developer Studio. If you haven't looked at it, have a look at the Microsoft Visual Code Marketplace. There you have the NSO Explorer and the NSO Developer Studio. We just recently released the Java support, and previously we had Python, template, and Young editing, and then the NSO Explorer, which is a tool to inspect your live instances. It's all available today. And Raj will have a presentation about the latest additions. I think it's on Thursday. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend you to go to that one. Observability, the black box. Yes, and I do understand, we all understand it can be very cumbersome. We also know that, unfortunately, from customer escalations, where we don't really understand what's going on. But for quite a long time, we also had the observability exporter, which collects primarily from a progress trace information, and then convert it to OpenTelemetry, so you then can visualize this in tools like Grafana or Jaeger. Apart from the package itself, we actually heavily extended the logs themselves to be more fine-grained and provide you with more information. And also some other tooling that will help you to troubleshoot and crash the NSO. So it's really to answer the question about, okay, I have my NSO. First, with two use cases, I develop my services. How does it behave? Why does it keep the lock, or which part of a service or which service keep locked? And also for the sysadmin, and in a running NSO instance to get a better understanding of what's actually loading the system. Christian Larsson will have demonstration on a very extensive session, first session of a developer track later on today. So recommend that as one as well. Okay, what about the future? So we'll continue here. There's a Slido. Don't forget this one, because it started now. Please suggest your favorite topics, capabilities, features that you would like to see in NSO going forward, whatever you're missing. So it's a free word, so if you like something, you can happily put it there as well. It's already existent, but whatever. So new features, new capabilities, resource manager. I'm super interested in what you mean with that. We have a resource manager in place, but let's discuss that later. If you would like to discuss this, in detail before Thursday session, please reach out to me. We have Meet the Engineer tomorrow at 5 p.m. I think it is. And then, of course, this is an e-gaming arena. And the AI bots thought that NSO logo in e-gaming aspects is like this. And then we have a few nerds in pyjamas that can help you and very interesting to discuss features as well. We have Martin Kjellin. You have there. Victor Lejon, distinguished engineer. Martin Åkström, our product owner, together with Christian, NSO product owner as well. So please, they can't escape now. So we can't escape you at all. So please reach out to us. I think that's pretty much it.
So we have a question. This will be a public question. So 6.1, can we get individual package reloading?
Dream on. No,
okay. I can see the chuckles in the audience. That's a good question. And thank you, Gabriel. That's $2 now.
No, so there is a small improvement. So individual package reload, it's typically on high on the list in the wonderful world of hitless upgrades. There's a small step towards Nirvana in 6.1 about NED updates with package add in NED updates. Martin Kjellin will actually cover that in your session, which I don't forget when you have. Sorry? This afternoon. Okay. So if you look interested in the first incremental step towards individual package reload, join Martin Kjellin's session this afternoon. Do you have anything more?
Yes. We have another question. Let me pull it back up. On template folder support, please.
Yes. No. It's in our backlog. We don't have any news there.
Okay.
But nice question, thanks.
Is it high up in the backlog? Is it?
So use this opportunity to put it high up in the backlog.
Okay. Okay. Can you provide more information on the Kubernetes support?
So you will find it on softwarecisco.com right away. It's available there, where you find it. It's a production image based on Red Hat UBI. And then in the documentation, it's all included about how to add the NEDs and your CFPs or your function packs. But it's really the core NSO software on that image as of today, and it's targeted for production. The base image that we distribute is Red Hat UBI, as I said, so it's also covered by if you use that in your environment and you have kind of support agreement with Red Hat.
I think it's fair to point out we've been doing this for a while. It's just now it's officially supported.
Yeah, the internal team or NSO engineering is doing this for ages, and many customers. I had a session with a customer a few weeks ago, and they built everything from scratch. I won't say which customer it is, and then just a few weeks ago, like 4 weeks ago, they realized that we planning to release it ourselves, and also the resources we have on GitLab.
Okay, last question. I think we have a deeper dive on this later. Can you give me like the highlights on the performance increases between 5x and 6?
So the main one is really about the throughput and how the lock has the amount of operations that's inside the lock has been the massive amount have been moved outside, which means that you can do many more operations concurrently. And I think Jakob's session is also this afternoon because there is a few things you need to consider. Suddenly your services will be able to run in parallel for some part of the use cases. And for most of the time, this will work perfectly well, but there is quite a few things you also could consider, both to not make things crash, but also to make it even better.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things, even if you do nothing, you'll see performance increases, and if you're willing to refactor your code, you can see some serious performance increases.